Are you tired of the noise and the spin? Do you want the real story behind the headlines? I'm Jake, and this is Politics by Jake, where I tell you what they won't. And now we're going even deeper, and I need your help to keep doing it. Join me on Patreon and support independent political analysis that doesn't pull punches. You'll get insider breakdowns, you'll get bonus clips, and first access to new content. So go to patreon.com/politics by Jake. That's patreon.com/politics by Jake. No filters, no fluff, just the truth. Let's do this together. Hi, this is Jake with Politics by Jake, and gosh, there's just so much to talk about. Let's start with this. I guess you could call this the Katistocracy Corner. Let me state my terms here before I go on, okay? The premise, of course, is that Donald Trump has a fascist cabal, no doubt about that, unquestionably talk about this on that, but he has really a government of the very worst people, And I've actually been thinking about doing a section of the show that's formally called the Katistocracy Corner. Let me, since I can barely pronounce it myself, let me just tell you what it is and state my terms before I explain to you this little bit of a segment that I'm going to do on it. Katistocracy, it's K-A-K-I-S-T-O-C-R-A-C-Y. Katistocracy, what a word, huh? Is defined as government, and I'm quoting, government by the worst, the least qualified, or the most unscrupulous individuals. In the definition, it says citizens. And it comes from, the Greek, as a lot of the English language does. Latin more. Latin, a lot is from Latin. But Greek is like, I think, in my old 8th grade Latin class, there was a chart on the board that said 37% of the English language comes from Greek. So that's considerable. So it comes from the Greek word kakistos, meaning worst. And the other word is a combination, kakistos kratia meaning rule or power. And in context, what it is under Katistocracy, corruption isn't a bug, it's like a feature. And it's often used as a scathing critique of regimes. And I've honestly, until Donald Trump, I've never used it. And I suppose it could be used. There are other examples in American history where it could be used. But I've never personally used it in my professional career as a broadcaster and a podcaster until Donald Trump came on the scene. And so, in other words, it's often used as a scathing critique of regimes perceived as corrupt, inept, or morally bankrupt, and certainly the fascist cabal of Donald Trump and company qualifies under all three of those. In the first Trump administration, he was always firing everybody because the people that he hired, and I don't understand this, I mean, I go along with it, but presumably these people should be smarter than this. But, for whatever reason, they went along with Donald Trump in his first administration. We have here, for example, former CIA Director John Brennan. And he said this in 2018. He said, quote, "Your fear of exposure, it's palpable. Your desperation, even more so. When the full extent of your venality, moral turpitude, and political corruption becomes known, you will take your rightful place as a disgraced demagogue in the dustbin of history. You may scapegoat Andy McCabe, but you will not destroy America. America will triumph over you." And then, after that, he called the Trump administration, and this is the first Trump administration, a Katistocracy. And this was from a Twitter post, just for those of you who are looking for a source. This is a while ago. This was back in 2018, but it was widely reported in the Washington Post and in the Guardian and in Politico in August of 2018. And in the Atlantic in 2018, in an article entitled Trump and the Problem of the Katistocracy. Such a great word, Katistocracy. Quote, Trump's presidency is what you get when you elect someone with no regard for ethics, no respect for truth, no impulse control. All true. That's me saying that. Going back to the quote, it's not just autocracy. That's right. I always say, politics by Jake, we're not talking about an autocrat here. That's not what we're talking about. Tsar Nicholas of the Russian Empire, he would be an autocrat. He's like everything is me. That's one man rule. Autocrat is one man rule. It's not just autocracy, the article says, we should fear. It's Katistocracy. Rule by the incompetent and the unfit. And once again, the source on that is The Atlantic, April 2018. Paul Krugman, or Krugman, whichever, quote, the problem isn't just the corruption, it's the sheer stupidity. We're in a Katistocracy where the worst people, not just morally, but intellectually, are in charge. And that's from a New York Opinion column and Twitter in 2018 through 2020. Lawrence Tribe, the Harvard law professor, says we are governed by a Katistocracy. The very worst are not just rising to the top, they are defining the bottom. And the source on that is Twitter and MSNBC. Appearances during the Trump years. MSNBC Joy Reid said, we're watching the U.S. descend into a kind of Katistocracy where grifters and ideologues dismantle the government from within. And you've heard me talk about Donald Trump. I actually say this on this show. He's a doofus. He's a wounded leader. He's part of the narcissistic symbiosis of wounded lumpen who have fallen out of the middle class. And I'm not blaming them for falling out of the middle class. As I say, that this is not pejorative. This is not a judgment. It's not a condemnation. It's nothing like that. But it just is the fact. And he's simply a con man. He's simply a grifter. And we'll talk about that more later in the show. So, and I know that's coming up, so I'm not going to go into that more at this point. And so now in our Katistocracy Corner, I might do this. I might do this as a segment of the show. Our Katistocracy Corner today, let's talk about RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This is a man who is a substance abuser. He's a self-admitted addict. And as I say, it's a self-admission. At the RX and Illicit Drug Summit in Nashville, RFK Jr., now the U.S. Health Secretary, was appointed by Donald Trump. And we're going to talk about him some more in a minute. Openly stated, but of course this is the Katistocracy Corner, the informal, the ad hoc segment that we're doing on the show that we may do some more. I'm beginning to think that I want to do that. Anyway, he openly stated that he was addicted to heroin for 14 years, beginning in his teenage years. He described coming to terms with addiction as both a source and symptom of misery. RFK Jr. Became dependent on heroin and other substances as well, starting at age 15, continued using through age 29, which aligns with the same 14-year span that is described elsewhere. And guess who he is now, folks? Oh, I just said it. He's the Health and Human Services Secretary. It's a cabinet post. He's in there with Tom Homan. He's in there with Pam Bondi, the corrupt Attorney General of the United States, who was the corrupt Attorney General of the state of Florida. He's in there in a cabinet level post with Carolyn Leavitt, the Minister of Propaganda for the Ministry of Propaganda for the second Trump administration, who, according to Donald Trump, has luscious lips, by the way. Okay. So what he's done, and this has just happened in the last couple of days, the mRNA vaccine was a miracle. It's the thing that saved the world. The United States literally saved the world from COVID. And he announced this Katistocratic drug addict major reduction in funding. Kennedy announced the termination of nearly $500 million, nearly $500 million in contract funding across 22 mRNA vaccine projects, including those aimed at emerging threats like bird flu. That's going to be a bad one. And potential pandemic pathogens. Projects previously managed by BARDA. And stated justification, he claimed that the mRNA technology poses more risks than benefits. Of course, he didn't elaborate, he just said, especially for respiratory viruses like influenza and COVID-19, which of course was the one that saved the world. But it poses more risks than benefits, and said the administration would pivot towards safer whole virus vaccine platforms. As you might expect, there's been a huge backlash. Experts like Dr. Mike Osterholm, Rick Bright, warned that this decision undermines national preparedness. Another infectious disease expert called it one of the most dangerous public health decisions in recent decades. NIH scientists, National Institute of Health, NIH scientists have also reportedly been told to remove all references to mRNA technology. This technology, folks, my listeners, is a miracle. It saved the country. It saved the world. It literally probably saved your life. But of course, this is the Katistocracy Corner. I'm going to say that enough, and eventually I'm going to get it right, and I'll never say it wrong again. So we're removing all references to mRNA technology from research grant applications, reflecting a larger institutional pullback from this scientific field. And if that wasn't bad enough, from the whack jobs, and I'm saying it here, the whack jobs who follow people like this, he has also vowed to, quote unquote, fix vaccine industry injury compensation system policy overhaul. The health secretary said he intends to rework the vaccine injury compensation program, which provides no-fault payments for rare vaccine-related injuries. Although the program does face delays, they worry that RFK Jr.'s changes may be driven more by anti-vaccine politics, and he is. He's anti-vaccine. He's the leader, the shepherd of this group of comparative walk jobs who are they're against vaccines, something which had saved literally hundreds and hundreds of millions of people. Smallpox, which happened back in the early 1800s, it didn't happen in the early 1800s. The vaccine was developed by the early 1800s. The estimate is, the last time I checked, something like 300 million people that were saved from smallpox because of the smallpox vaccine. Polio is another thing. My ex-wife has a brother who got polio, but he got the vaccine, and so he walks with a little bit of a limp, but it took, nevertheless, and it saved him. Hundreds of millions of people saved by this. It's just stunning. Just stunning. This is not about genuine reform. It's not. It's about craziness. It's about drug-addled insanity. And what it does, it potentially expands eligibility for claims lacking scientific basis, and that's the nice way of saying it. It expands the opportunity for crazies and whack jobs and fringe types, of whom RFK Jr. is their shepherd, to file frivolous claims against the federal government and tie up the courts. I mean, sorry. But that's it. And that's the Katistocracy Corner for now. And we'll be back in a minute. We're going to have a message from Twain Consulting, I think. And this is Politics by Jake, and we'll be right back. And now here's a word from one of our sponsors, Twain Consulting. Hi, this is Jake with Twain Consulting. Let's be blunt, shall we? America is litigious. It's unstable, and it's financially weaponized. If your name is on everything you own, you're a sitting duck. At Twain Consulting, we help you vanish legally, ethically, and permanently. From land trusts to layered LLCs, we teach you how to restructure your assets so the predators can't see them and can't touch them. This isn't a loophole. It's a strategy that the wealthy have used for decades. Isn't it time you got the same protection? Call Twain Consulting at 805-380-5699 or visit us online. Protect what's yours before someone else claims it. And Now let's get back to Jake and Politics by Jake. Hi, this is Jake with Politics by Jake to tell you you're not crazy. The system is rigged. Help us say it louder, won't you? Join us at patreon.com/Politics by Jake. And this is Politics by Jake, and we're back. Okay, and this is Politics by Jake, and we are back. Now, as per, kind of usual, we're going to be talking about fascism, maybe not directly, but we're going to be talking about it collaterally. We're going to be talking about sideways. But look, I'm sorry. With all due respect, and I say this, you're going to hear some things that, because you don't know history, and I say this to all of you with respect. I say it with respect, honest to God, and not as a judgment, and not as a pejorative. A pejorative is kind of a dig. It's a bad, negative thing that I would say. It's not that. It's not as a condemnation, but it's with respect. Because just like I know no plumbing, auto mechanics, or electricity, I know that you don't know what I say is really true, but take it from me as one who knows that a fascist cabal has taken over the U.S. It has captured the executive, the legislative, and judicial branches of government. And whereas fascism was stopped in the 1940s by the United States, after a period of time, especially in the 20s and 30s, when it actually was inside the country, it was stopped. And it will be the fight of this country, the very fight of this country to defeat it. Because now it's inside our borders. And while the United States and its allies saved the world from fascism, saved the world from authoritarianism, saved the country, now who is going to save the United States? So let's talk a little bit about the players. Let's talk about the people you're dealing with. You have all these people, especially in the flyover zone. I'm sorry, you guys are propagandized. You're listening to the Rush Limbaughs, may he rot in hell, of this world, the Karl Rove of this world, the George W. Bushes of this world. You've listened to them for the entirety of your lives. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives. The timeline of Mike Johnson's life is that he was just starting law school when Fox News went on the air. There are people in the Trump dictatorship whose parents were raised on Rush Limbaugh. And those of you who listen to me in the flyover zone, you have listened to them too. This is how long this has been going on. Since about the time, as I say, of St. Ronnie, but it's actually more, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But it's at least since, and that's like 1981, when Ronald Reagan took office, St. Ronnie took office. And I, and others like me, journalists, enemies of the people, Politics by Jake G. Plug, Mondays and Fridays, KCAA, have been warning of this change in the fundamental perception of what America is of the two-party system. Warning about the Republicans intending to destroy this. And speaking of it as if it is something that Republicans need to correct since 1998. But the fact is, as I pointed out before, this has been going on at least since the 80s. And I only use the example of the 80s because it seemed to step up and be more of a coherent push at this time, and disparate, disjunct forces seemed to coalesce and come together, because honestly, that's not even correct. It's been going on much longer than since the 80s. But as I say, that's when St. Ronnie, the actor, I love the statement by Christopher Lloyd, who plays the Doc in Back to the Future, when Marty goes back And the doc doesn't believe him. He goes back to the 50s. The doc doesn't believe him. And he says, okay, smarty pants, who's the president of the United States? And Marty McFly says, Ronald Reagan. And Doc, Christopher Lloyd character, shouts out incredulously, Ronald Reagan? The actor? Because it's absurd. All Ronald Reagan ever knew how to do was to hit his mark and deliver his lines. Trust me, that's all he knew how to do. So its precursors, again, have been around a lot longer. They've been around since the McCarthy era in the 50s. I've talked to people from the 50s who just absolutely, positively believe in this. I've talked about how modern conservatism, not for a while, but go to my videos on youtube.com / at politics by Jake. I've got them there, but I'll talk about it here. I've talked about how modern conservatism, it's not an organic doctrine. It's made up. It's a hodgepodge. And I've traced that back to the Mount Pelerin School of the late 1940s, and even before that, and that in and of itself was before McCarthy in the 50s. And I've talked about Bill Buckley, William F. Buckley, and how he was actually CIA, and how he was from a very rich family. And this is where all these things come from. The game is always the same, and the players are always the same. Yeah, an individual player may die, but they're always replaced, and it's always the same game. And the precursors to McCarthy occurred in the Palmer raids, right after the first World War One, and the precursors to the Palmer raids were the anarchy raids in the 1890s, and it goes back even further than that. It goes all the way back to the Klan, and I've got a segment on the Klan. I don't know if I'm even going to get to it today, but we're going to be talking about that. It's an American invention is what I'm trying to say. Like I said, I'll explain that later in the show. The point is this: there's always been a part of this country, always. And it's dismaying to find this out and realize that this is the case. There has always been a part of this country ready to embrace fascism, authoritarianism, one-party rule. And it's almost always been conservatives trying to stamp out liberals. The Ann Coulters, the Laura Ingrams, the Bill Rileys. You saw what they were pitching in the 1990s, that being liberal was a disease somehow, that liberals were traitors, that the natural party of government was the Republican Party, and this was according to Karl Rove. They have been trained for this. The population has been propagandized with this. And I know you're saying, Jake's going off the rails. No, Jake's not going off the rails. Jake knows. Just sit and listen to me. And if you can't believe it, give some space in your mind for the possibility that this might be true. The people have been trained for autocracy and fascism, for one-party rule, for decade upon decade upon decade. They haven't inherited it from their parents, and absolutely in some cases grandparents. They do not understand that this has been a two-party country since its founding. If you read in the Federalist Papers, it almost mandates in there, and I'm not going to tell you which one because I can't remember which one, it almost mandates in there or requires that there be two parties only and no factions. And there's a very interesting article in the Federalist paper about factions and how dangerous they are. So they don't understand, these people. And I'm talking about you out there, you maggots, and you others in the flyover zone, many of whom I know, and I have traveled in the flyover zone. You're good basic people. You eat, you sleep, you work. You're good. I'm good with that. Give space for what Jake is saying. You do not understand that a minority is not permitted to rule without consent of the majority and the cooperation of the majority. They believe that is necessary. They believe that the minority is better than the majority. And this, honestly, this is what we have right now in Donald Trump. He's a minority president. So they believe that the minority is better in order to stamp out any opportunity the majority would have to rule. So, I mean, having been so heavily propagandized as they have been, why would they turn away from this? Why would they say, oh, Jake, that Jake, he just doesn't know, doggone it. He's a great guy and a great looker. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But he doesn't know what he's talking about. They believe that Trump is right. That's why. This is why. You have, I talked on the show on Monday about the fact that MAGA is turning against Trump. But it's not for the reasons that everybody else realizes are the reasons to turn against Trump. This is evidence of the narcissistic symbiosis between the wounded leader, Donald Trump. Nobody loves him, 5 years old. Talk to Mary. Go on her website. Just look her up. You'll see her videos. She talks all about it. Donald knew he was not loved. And he knows that he never will be loved. He knows it. He is a wounded narcissistic leader. He talks about in one of his videos, and I'm not going to pull it up because I'm not really doing clips today so much. I'm just basically talking about stuff. Is where he says, but when you watch him in one of his speeches in like 2015 or 2016, he says, all of my life, and he takes his arms and he makes these grabbing motions. It's kind of dismaying when you look at it. All my life, all I wanted, all I knew was to get as much as I could get. To get as much as I could get. And you have the narcissistic symbiosis between the wounded leader and these wounded followers. I've called the lumpen proletariat. The ones who Marx said fallen out of the middle class. They precipitated, that's a nice word, fallen out of the middle class for various reasons, whom globalization has destroyed. The loss, as I have said, of 60,000 factories. Trump says actually 70,000. I think it's 60, but I'm not going to quibble over 10,000. But my figure, I think it's 60,000. And it's not just the factories or industries; it's the collateral industries and businesses that were built up around those, the satellites, as it were, to support those primary industries or factories, the towns and the cities, and in some cases even the states that grew up around them, the families that owed their incomes and their livelihoods until people like Mitt Romney and Bain Capital, and even Newt Gingrich dumps over Mitt Romney, and he's right. I mean, or even a broken clock is right twice a day. And even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and then. They're right to say this because that was the initial part of globalization. The Trilateral Commission from the 1940s, once again, the late 1940s, the three economic zones, and the argument that there was a disparity and that this disparity needs to be broken up, and the reasons why, we can talk about that later, cheap labor, a lot of it's cheap labor. They need to be broken up. Took these people, got the people in power who would do what they wanted, took these factories, in some cases, broke them up into constituent parts. Some they sold whole cloth. Others they broke up and sold in pieces to governments that are our enemies. And they did it for financial gain. This is why you hear me say, don't ever, and I think, I'm not sure, he's either out of the Senate now or he's going to be out of the Senate when his term expires. Don't hold up people like Mitt Romney and Liz Cheney as paragons of democratic virtue. They are not. They are the people who gave you Donald Trump. They are the people who held his coat. And there are others. Mike Johnson is another example. There are many. And at this point, let's take a break, and we will definitely move on with this. But let's take a break right now and have a few messages. And this is Politics by Jake. And now here's a word from one of our sponsors, Twain Consulting. Hi, this is Jake with Twain Consulting. Imagine, if you will, having the power to disappear from the prying eyes of creditors, identity thieves, nosy strangers, all while protecting what you've worked so hard to build. That's what virtual invisibility offers. It's not magic. It's smart legal and business strategy to shield your assets and privacy so you can live free, confident, and in control. Most people think that asset protection is only for the ultra-wealthy, but it's for anyone who wants peace of mind and financial security, including you. Don't wait until it's too late. Take control now. Call me at 213-465-0639 or go to facebook.com/Twain Consulting to learn how virtual invisibility can protect you and your family, because when you're invisible to risk, you're unstoppable. Now let's get back to Jake and Politics by Jake. Hi, this is Jake with Politics by Jake. Do you like what you hear right now? Support the real talk then. Go to patreon.com/Politics by Jake right now. Every dollar helps fight the noise. And thank you, Twain Consulting. This is Politics by Jake, and we're back. So you have, as I said, the MAGAs are turning against Trump. Late to the party, by the way, because the whole Epstein thing has been known about since 2015. And apparently they're just discovering it. But they're turning against him for entirely different reasons. And this is this narcissistic symbiosis. This is why you will hear people who say you cannot, the facts, you can give these people fact upon fact upon fact. Real facts. And it just doesn't mean anything. It just goes right over their head like high, ball four. And you have people like, and this is astounding, it astounded me anyway, the Secretary of State in late 2020, 2021 of the state of Georgia with what he said. This disconnect is evident in his remarks, because Donald Trump attempted to call him, and he attempted to call the Secretary of State in other states as well. Arizona was one, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And said, I need 11 or 12,000 votes. This is vote tampering. This is interfering with elections. This is a crime. This is like tantamount to the overthrow of the government, or the attempted overthrow of the government. The violation of a legal election. And he called them, and we have the tapes. And this is what I mean. Just follow me here, okay? Of Donald Trump saying, I need approximately 12,000 votes. He said, I need, find me 12,000 votes, which was one more than what we have, and it's actually a little less than 12,000 votes. And you have the Secretary of State, to his credit, saying basically, it's not there. And it's like, if it was there, I would give it to you, but it's not there. Who basically later says, I'm a Republican. I voted for Trump. I will vote for Trump again. But what he did was wrong. And it's like, don't you get it? Don't you get what you just said? This person is a criminal. He committed a criminal act, and you sat there and listened to him do it. And you said that notwithstanding this criminality, you would vote for him again. Secretary of State of the state of Arizona, same thing, said the exact same thing. I don't even need to repeat it because it was the exact same thing. And I say again, and I say to you, do you hear what these people just said? I will vote for you. You attempted to suborn me in my duties as the Secretary of State, to throw an election your way. But I will vote for you again. And the Secretary of State of Arizona said this in public. I'd vote for him again. Now, this isn't even propaganda, okay? This is mind control. This is brainwashing that allows people to say and accept the most insane things and not even realize when they are saying it how insane it is. So no matter how it's achieved, they don't care. They don't care if you shot someone on Fifth Avenue every day. They don't care. They just don't care. They've been told that this is about eliminating choice. This is about making it impossible for those disgusting minorities with the brown and the yellow skin, or the red skin, or whatever skin, or the black skin, to have any real say here. And you can pick whatever minority they don't like this week. They shuttle them in, they shuttle them out. In stage left, out stage right. Arabic, there's another one. Muslim, religious, doesn't matter. It could be the same people, it could be different names. They're the guilty parties, and he's going to use them and he is using them as the rationale to take away the votes and the rule of anyone who supports them, let alone the members of those groups. Just like Trump said in 2024, I've talked about it before. I should probably look it up, but trust me, he said this. What I'm about to tell you is outrageous. He said it. I heard it with my own ears. And at the time of the campaign for the election, this was a clip, and it was heard by many people, not just me, how he was talking to a religious group, probably old people. And he said, vote like your life depended on it in 2024. Vote like hell in 2024. And I may be paraphrasing a little bit, but this is what he said. And I encourage you to look it up. If you do, you'll find it. Vote like hell in 2024. And in 2028, we'll have things fixed. And you won't ever have to vote again. Which is why, of course, you've heard me say before that I'm not even worried about the elections in 2028. I'm worried about the ones in 2026. Because their intention is to make it so that there are no elections. Or at least there are no free elections. And this is because of the brainwashing. This is like a segment of the nation who are Manchurian candidates. And can I say another thing here? I know some of you listen to me, this is going to make you mad, but I know that a lot of you listen to me because you're already mad at what I say. You think you want to hear what I'm going to say next, so you can be mad at that. So we'll just do it, okay? And God bless you guys. Thanks for listening to Politics by Jake. Let me just make another observation here, if I may. A lot of these people, they're largely homeschooled. And homeschooling, for those of you who don't know, homeschooling is an educational method in which parents or guardians take direct responsibility for teaching their children at home, rather than enrolling them in a traditional public school or even a charter school, even a private school. And it typically involves a customized curriculum chosen or created by the family. And this is important, and I'm going to touch on this in a minute. Flexible scheduling, often tailored to the child's learning pace. Parental involvement as the primary instructor. Again, I'm going to expand on this a little bit in a minute. It could be also through tutors. Online programs might also be used. Legal oversight by the school district, which varies by county and region. Some areas require registration, assessments, or curriculum approval. Families choose homeschooling for reasons, including educational quality, you'll pardon the expression, religious or philosophical beliefs, special needs, or dissatisfaction with social schools, with local schools. So here's an example of what happens in homeschooling. Number one, the students don't get socialized. They're in the house all the time. And a family may think, and this is actually an example of things that kids get taught in the South. They're taught that the Civil War was actually called, and they call it, the War of Northern Aggression. Which, it kind of begs the fact that it started in South Carolina, which has been forever after known as the cradle of secession, attacked by Fort Sumter, or I should say attacked Fort Sumter, which is, in the harbor there. Fort Sumter is in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina. It's like a man-made island. It's near the entrance to the harbor. It's about 3 miles from the city of Charleston, and it's accessible only by boat. And moreover, and I do this to show you what this is, because it's just very important, because to this day people are homeschooled in some of these areas, and they learn these things rather than the truth. And this has been going on for a long time. The general who opened fire, this is actually interesting. The general that opened fire on Fort Sumter was P.G.T. Beauregard. And the P.G.T. stands for Pierre Gustave Toutant. Pierre Gustave Toutant Beauregard, he was in command of the Confederate forces in Charleston, South Carolina at the time when the Civil War began. And this is interesting. Beauregard had been a student of Major Robert Anderson, the Union officer commanding Fort Sumter, which, this kind of adds a personal dimension to the confrontation. I wonder if he fired him. And the president of the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis. Who did Trump have as his attorney general at one time? His name was Jefferson Beauregard Sessions. His parents named him after the Confederate president, who was a rebel and a renegade and a traitor, and the commanding general, Pierre Gustave Toutant Beauregard, just named him Beauregard, who literally started the Civil War. And they gave a child the name of these two traitors who did this. There's your homeschooling right there. And this is Politics by Jake, and we will most definitely be back. And now here's a word from one of our sponsors, Twain Consulting. Hi, I'm Jake with Twain Consulting. And if you're a business owner, freelancer, or entrepreneur, protecting what you've worked so hard to build starts with solid agreement. Imagine having agreements that make misunderstandings disappear and costly disputes a thing of the past. Get It in Writing is the all-in-one legal form package designed just for people like you, savvy entrepreneurs who want clear, enforceable contracts, whether you're hiring trusted contractors, leasing space, or closing deals that move your business forward. Get It in Writing provides easy-to-use, professionally drafted forms that save you time, money, and stress. Right now, you can get full access for just $99. That's 80% off the regular $497 price. A limited time opportunity you don't want to miss. Picture the peace of mind you'll have, knowing that your business is fully protected so you can confidently focus on growth and success. Don't wait until the unexpected happens. Take control. Secure your business today with Get It in Writing. Call us now at 213-465-0639 or visit facebook.com/Twain Consulting to get started. Now let's get back to Jake and Politics by Jake. Hi, this is Jake with Politics by Jake to tell you you're not crazy. The system is rigged. Help us say it louder, won't you? Join us at patreon.com/Politics by Jake. And this is Politics by Jake, and we are most definitely back. And do you see what my point is? Do you see how things can be twisted and how persistent are the lies that are told as fact, and how much more so with parents who homeschool their children? So, this is the problem. This is the problem that you have. So anyway, these kids, they don't have the opportunity, and I don't want to say they totally, entirely, completely don't have the opportunity, but they don't have a normal opportunity to go and meet members of the other groups and associate with them. And you know the statistics. If there's another group in your awareness of the world and you know nobody from that group, the odds are 10 to 90 that you will accept them or like them. In other words, you won't. There's like a 90% chance that you won't. If you meet somebody and interact with them, that like switches. It becomes 90-10. That you will like them, you will interact with them and not brand them as the enemy or some other group. You'll realize that everybody's basically just like everybody else. And good guys and bad guys, but they're homeschooled. They don't get to do this. This is a way of indoctrinating people. And you say, Jake, what is it you're talking about here? Are you talking about conspiracy? Well, I kind of am. This is the long game. As I've told you, these people are indefatigable. They're like the loyal opposition. They don't quit. They're willing to play the long game. And they do these things to indoctrinate the young, so that when they grow up, they think this is the way. And this is not choice. It's not even given the variety of life that a private school gives you or a religious school gives you, which is, parochial and somewhat constrained. But, just getting out of the house, these homeschool kids, these are kids who, in a very real way, they've never been out of the house before. These are the kind of people who are now working for Donald Trump. So where's the moral courage going to come from, I ask you, to stand up and oppose him or oppose the principles which he votes for? And I've said before, Donald Trump, comparatively simple to understand. He masquerades as a businessman. He is a failed businessman. Bankruptcy is part of his business model. He takes your services and then he files bankruptcy. He forces you into a situation where if you're an unsecured creditor, forget it, you're not going to get anything. And if you're a secured creditor, you're going to get a minimum amount of the money that's actually owed you. This is why he does it, because the bankruptcy process allows this kind of a settlement. It's called settlement for the benefit of creditor. And actually, there's a state banker. I know I'm getting into legal things, and I'm sorry about that. I will veer off and talk about some of these things, but there is the only state bankruptcy law that there actually is. It's called assignment for the benefit of creditors. Pretty much every state has a statute about assignment for the benefit of creditors. But the federal bankruptcy process also allows for this. It's the same thing. It's basically just assigning and agreeing on a portion of the debt. If you're in a Chapter 11 or a Chapter 13, which is basically a reorganization type bankruptcy, it allows you to do that if all the parties agree. So you get a little bit. You may, if you're an unsecured creditor, you're not going to get anything because the law basically allows that. If you're a secured creditor, if you've got a material man's lien or some other sort of lien, you can negotiate and you can get a little bit of your money back. But that's his business model. So where's the moral courage going to come from? I mean, even where's the moral disagreement going to come from? And this is the thing that I've told you about too, because like I said, Donald Trump, and I just said it, he's a grifter, he's a con man, he's getting old. What is he, 80 now? He's in terrible health. He's declining rapidly, I think, declining physically. His mental power is clearly going. He slurs his words. He has indications that he is in dementia, in a condition of that would be prescribed by a doctor as dementia, or I should say diagnosed, because he does slur his words, and that's one of the examples of early stage dementia. But it's the ones after him, the ones who are standing in the wings, who look at this and think of this as an opportunity. Because unfortunately, this is like Pandora's box. Someone is going to inherit this movement because Donald Trump has shown them how they can enrich themselves from this movement. It may not be the same movement once Trump is gone. It will, it probably won't go to any of Trump's children because they're truly morons. And I think the people in the MAGA movement, I think they understand this. I think they understand that Trump's kids are morons. They've been out there in front of every single Trump venture. And I ask you, is there any Eric Trump groundswell? Is there any Donald Trump Jr. groundswell? They are made fun of regularly on Saturday Night Live. And I encourage you to look at the clips on that because they're really funny. They're morons. And there's Laura Trump. She's just an in-law. None of the Trump children have anything that would be needed to rule this thing. So all of the younger people inside the Trump administration, they don't see this as a disaster. Or if they see it, it's something that's going to claim Trump's presidency. They're finally going to catch him if these Epstein files are going to come out. If the Trumpstein record shows him and Epstein in bed with children. And I bet you're going to see that. And Russian hookers. And the P tape comes out. This is just an opportunity for the younger ones to take over the next time, isn't it? And they're there. And they are worse. Stephen Miller, for example. He's a hate-filled little bugger. And they are worse than Donald Trump. I mean, do you think Emil Bove's going to walk out? Do you think Carolyn Levitt's going to walk out? Do you think Tom Homan's going to walk out? Do you think Stephen Miller's going to walk out? Do you think Steve Bannon's going to walk out? And any of a number of ones in the cabinet who don't even wear the flag pin on their lapel anymore, but wear a gold pin with the likeness of Donald Trump on their lapel? Do you think any of them are going to get out? No. Because the grifter and the con man showed them the way. And basically all they have to do is copy it and springboard off of it, and they can create a hellstorm. They may not believe in Trump. They may be pretending. But I'll tell you what they do believe in. They believe in power. And they've achieved it. And having achieved it, why would they ever give it back? No. All they're doing is trying to find ways to lock it in permanently. Like I said, fear greatly for the legitimacy of the elections in 2026. Never mind about 2028. That's a ways off. And yes, Donald Trump did say that. Yes, look it up. You will find it. Jake's telling you the truth. But worry about 2026 and what's going to happen then. Because 2028 may not even matter. And this is Politics by Jake. And now here's a word from one of our sponsors, Twain Consulting. Hi, this is Jake with Politics by Jake. Do you like what you hear right now? Support the real talk then. Go to patreon.com/Politics by Jake right now. Every dollar helps fight the noise.